Hello everyone and welcome back to the Synergy Sanctum. My name is Justin. Thank you so much for stopping by. Here at the Synergy Sanctum, we specialize in all things related to Magic the Gathering with a specific focus on deck building. So I aim to show you very quick deck text that'll show you all of the cards in the deck and how they work together to ultimately achieve the goals of that deck. If you're not already, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate that. And we also have a sister channel now, so head on over to Commander Coliseum and check out their content as well. And for today's deck tech, we have Zada Hedron Grinder, a super competitive spell-slinging build here. I would say it's cEDH, but I'm not sure the community agrees with that because I'm not running any of the consistent zero drop rocks. But this deck consistently goes off on turn 3 to 4 and most of the time isn't able to be stopped. We are running kind of a goblin tribal sub theme here because goblins get out quickly and there's a lot of the bodies, and the whole goal with Zada here is to cast spells and ultimately have multiple targets so that you get to duplicate those spells. So current TCG market value of this deck is $290 to $397. The land count we are running kind of low at 32 lands, with 20 of those being mountains and 12 of those being non-basics. There are a ton of cantrips and everything that you would expect a Zada deck to do here. So we are running the strategy of trying to get a lot of bodies out as quickly as possible, and then to start casting those spells that ultimately get benefits off of more than one target being there, with Zada being the initial target. So to get us started today, we have our army of goblins here. So there are a lot of goblins that are basically bringing in more bodies, and then goblins that have additional benefits like Krenko, tapping to make more of them. Goblin Gang Leader and Siege Gang Lieutenant doing consistent tokens, Beetleback Chief bringing in additional bodies as well. And then we have our haste enablers here, but we do have a lot of spells that are also giving haste, so it's not a big deal. And then a showstopper with Krark the Thumbless. So if we do our initial cast and it targets Zada and we lose that cast, then we get the spell back to our hand. And then if we don't lose it, then we get to copy it as well. So it's really good in this deck because it kind of, even if we happen to lose the flip and the spell goes back to our hand, we still get the Zada trigger, so we still get the benefits of those additional copies hitting all of the other creatures. And then there's even more targets here with spells and lands that make additional bodies for Zada. So Dragon Fodder, Krenko's Command, Empty the Warrens, Hordeling Outburst all make additional goblin tokens. And then the land suite on the right here brings in additional bodies and additional targets for Zada, with Ink Moth being kind of a showstopper and having a flying infect body that is potentially getting boosted by Zada. So when we move now into the spell-slinging strategy, we'll focus first on the spells that give us draw. So each of these spells, if they target only Zada and there's other creatures on the field or other goblins, you're going to get duplicated for each of these spells. So every single one of these draws a card, and then you'll be drawing additional cards because Zada and her friends are out on the field. A couple of solid ones here with Fist of Flame and Witch's Mark. Witch's Mark gets you 2 cards as long as you can discard 1. Fist of Flame gets you a boost for every card that you drew for the turn. And then new card with Haste Magic. Haste Magic is doing the boost, and it is giving you pseudo draw by exiling cards that you can play until the end of your next end step. So that's well and good. We can get a bunch of cards in hand, but we're only running 32 lands. So how are we going to get mana? And the way that we're getting mana is with those same kind of similar cantrips here. So Sudden Breakthrough, Flick with a Coin, Ancestor's Aid. Caveat with Flick of a Coin, you want to make sure that you're doing it after you've done a boost. And then if we're going to have a bunch of bodies out, then we can get cards like Battle Hymn and Brightstone Ritual out to get a ton of red mana. And then Inner Fire, after you've resolved some of those draw cantrips, Inner Fire is adding red mana to your pool, equal to the amount of cards that you have in hand. Traitorous Greed is really good because it targets a creature and untaps them, which isn't a big deal, but it also gains you 2 additional mana. So if you target Zada with this, 2 additional mana. Every other person out with Zada, 2 additional mana. Moving on to the boosts, we're running kind of the expected cantrips here that boost creatures. Downhill Charge being one of the better ones because it's based off of your mountains, but everything else is doing at least a +3 and then potentially having additional benefit like with the Scry on Titan Strength or the Flashback on Reckless Charge so you can cast it again. In addition, Invigorated Rampage is giving Trample, which is important. Now that we have our suite of spells that we're going to cast to target Zada and copy it for everyone else, we want additional payoffs from the Spell-slinging, right? So we're running the expected ones here with Stormkill Narnis and Gutter Snipe. Storm Splitter is really good because it brings in an additional body for every cast. Rite of the Dragon Caller is turning those little cantrips into big dragons. Fiery Inscription is doing the same type of damage that Gutter Snipe is. Captain Ripley Vance is really solid in this deck because she gets bigger for every cast and then you can do damage. And then we have some kind of like ones that build, right? So Arcane Bombardment, you get to recur these out of the graveyard. Same with Tersa Light Shatter. Aria Flame builds for each cast. And then Radiate is super awesome in this deck because it not only targets your own creatures, but it targets every potential target on the board. So if you're going to cast something that's going to get you a draw by targeting a creature with Zada, you're now getting that for every single creature that's on the field. So super broken here. And then another call out with Carry Zeb's Expertise because that gets you free cast for every single copy that you're casting out of your hand. So if your hand's loaded and you have additional spells to cast that are 2 or less, which is the bulk of this deck, you get to do those and just kind of go crazy. Really broken card here. And then when we're thinking about the good stuff, so a lot of these are essential spells that we don't want to be countered. So we are running Buseju, who shelters all, to protect that and make sure that it's not countered. A bit of stacks with Blood Moon. We are running Blasphemous Act to make sure that if it goes south, we have kind of a backup plan here. Targeted removal, targeted tutors, Skull Clamp getting you to the draw if you don't have the spells, because it is just 1/1 goblins for the most part, so you can kill them for the 2 draws. And then finally, our normal mana base here, so running Ruby Medallion and the Fire Crystal for the red spells to be discounted. Nykthos Shrine to Nyx is getting you red mana for your devotion to it. Runaway Steam King gets pretty crazy in this deck because you hit that 3 counters pretty quickly. Jessica's Will and Bergie and Mana Geyser, and then Skirk Prospector because we are running the Goblin Tribal. You can sack the goblins for mana if you happen to need to. And with that, our show has come to an end. Thank you so much for watching our video. And if you enjoyed that video, feel free to share it out with any friends who might find value in it as well. Thank you so much for stopping by. We hope to see you again soon. Have a good one.